This is an Italian family where the father was raised with a lot of touching and hugging and kissing.
Touching of a child's genitals?
There is no proof that
Well,
the
the
genitals.
The photographs are clear.
May I proceed?
Yes, please.
May it please the court, Nancy Green for the appellant Fabio G. This appeal challenges the family court's erroneous finding that the father committed sexual abuse in the second degree. Respectfully, the record does not support that
Isn't that a
conclusion.
finding of fact and based on the credibility of the witnesses who were before the court, who was in the best position to consider those questions?
I think it's more a question of a matter of law, that the court applied the wrong standard of law. It was the mother's burden to prove by a fair preponderance of the evidence that the father had engaged in an activity for the purpose of sexual gratification, which is required by statute. That was not proven here, and that was not considered.
Sexual gratification is usually, it's rare for someone to stand up and say, I did this for the purpose of sexual gratification. So the court has to draw inferences from the facts which are in front of it. Why should we reject this court's findings, the inferences that the court drew from its evaluation of the witnesses who were before it?
There are several different ways the photographs could have been looked at, but this appellate.
Well, it was not only the photographs, right? There were other things as well. It was the photographs. It was the father's acknowledgement as to kissing his son on the lips. There were statements in the record that he made to the son. So, I mean, it wasn't only the photographs, which the photographs were only one piece.
Well, this court in matter of AG specifically rejected those very similar acts made by the father, such as, which were even worse, I think, bathing nude with the child, describing the child as sexy in front of the child, sleeping nude together, touching tongues while kissing. And this court did not find that to rise to the level of sexual gratification. While these things happened, it didn't show the intent of sexual gratification.
Again, the judge was in a better position to assess credibility of the witnesses here once they were shown the exhibits of the picture. So why should we disturb that?
I think the court needs to look at the entire context in the familial relationship, and the lower court did not do that. The lower court applied a standard that did not take into account that this was a father and a child, did not take into account the cultural norms in the Italian culture.
What are the cultural norms that you're speaking about?
This is an Italian family where the father was raised with a lot of touching and hugging and kissing. And
Touching of a child's genitals?
there is no proof that
Well,
the
the
genitals.
The photographs are clear. The photographs clearly show the father touching the child's genitals.
It's hard to tell from most of the pictures where the father's hand is placed and where
Between the legs of the child.
Of a small child.
Of a small child while the child is on the father's lap.
I don't think the child was on the father's lap. And
He's next to the father on the sofa.
He's next to the father on the sofa. I have the photographs here. He's next to the father. He's actually lying on, I'm sorry, yeah. He's next to the father on the sofa. And the father's hands are between the child's.
The father even admitted in one of the photos that he was in fact touching the.
yes, there was one photo where he did state that he was moving the child's hand away because the child was playing with himself. And
there's
was
another
trying to
one with the
discourage
child's the father's hands on the buttocks. Now, I recognize that in your papers you talk about, some type of Italian tradition of parents or fathers kissing their child on the lips. Okay. But the photographs and other statements made by the father seem to be sufficient to sustain sexual gratification.
Not within the familial context.
I'm not understanding.
I'm lost.
Are you essentially saying that the court didn't take into account cultural Italian norms of affection with between father and son. And had they taken that in, that would have given the court a different view of these photographs?
I think it would have given a different view, not only the cultural norms, but also the parent-child
So
relationship.
you're stating that in a familiar relationship, in a parent-child relationship, a father may place his hands on the child's genitals, place his hands on the child's buttocks, et cetera. That's fine in a familiar relationship?
Well, according to matter of AG, yes, that is.
I don't
No.
think that's what it says. Well, I mean, again, I have it here, but I don't think that's what it says. Yes.
I was just going to ask if, I don't recall the father having testified that that was cultural norms that he grew up with. He testified that there may have been different standards about touching, but I don't believe there was testimony that he said that fathers typically touch their sons' genitals.
He said that in the culture, in his culture, or as he was growing up, it was fine for a father to kiss a child on the lips, and it was fine for the father to say to the child, "I love you, te amore," or something, and to ask repeatedly whether or not the child loved him. That's what he said. I didn't see anything about the touching of genitals.
I think the court still needs to look at the touching of the genital area above the clothing within the context of the familial relationship, which the lower court did not do.
You're saying there's a familiar exception.
Correct.
Where,
Thank you.
here or in Italy?
Here.
Here,
Here. Thank you.
thank you.